The 2024 NFL season is right around the corner, and today we're going to see which teams are poised for glory and which might crumble under pressure. My name is Ficky, and I'm an NFL addict who has never reached sobriety. I cover NFL teams, NFL players, and every storyline in between. As the NFL season approaches, it is crucial to distinguish between the true contenders and the potential pretenders. And this week we're going to take a look at the Bears, Jets, Bengals, Dolphins, and Texans. FYI, these evaluations are looking at three crucial things. First, I'm looking at the roster changes. Secondly, I'm looking at the offseason moves. And thirdly, I'm looking at the preseason performances. Now let's start off with my team first, the Chicago Bears. Are the Bears ready to surprise the NFL and actually make a playoff push this season? The Chicago Bears are emerging as a potential contender in the NFL with their impressive pivotal offseason and their 4-0 start in preseason. And the Bears historically have missed on quarterback play, and I think this year they might have finally found their guy. Enter Caleb Williams, the highly impactful #1 draft pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, quarterback from USC. Right now, Caleb Williams has the city and fans buzzing from his impressive Patrick Mahomes-like plays that we've seen all through the preseason from his immaculate arm talent. And what's been most impressive with Caleb Williams is not necessarily his arm talent, but the way he's been able to pick up this offense from the start. With the new offensive coordinator Shane Waldron, Caleb Williams and Shane have been merging and working this perfect relationship. Now, we all know Caleb Williams can flash when it comes to going outside the pocket and kind of playing backyard football, but we've seen great reads and great deliveries from inside the pocket, and that's what's most exciting for this Bears offense. His spatial awareness, his decision making, and his ability to adapt to these different defensive schemes is what's going to make him stand out from the rest of the quarterbacks in this draft. But let's not stop there. The Bears also upgraded their wide receiver core by drafting Rome Odunze, a steal at number 9 in this NFL draft, and then also trading a 4th to get Keenan Allen from the Chargers. This might be the most stacked Bears wide receiver group that I've seen in a decade. And along with that, they got DeAndre Swift from the Eagles, and they got Gerald Everett, who I think is an underrated tight end from the Chargers. Under Shane Waldron's new offense, he's going to have Caleb Williams doing more dropbacks, spreading the ball across the field, and really leveraging Caleb Williams' ability to read the field and deliver dots. And Shane Waldron isn't just some bum, right? Shane Waldron had 4 years in Seattle where he executed a pretty decent offense. So he's going to have ability to really manipulate these defenses, keeping them on their heels. So mixing that with Caleb Williams and his elite talent, along with the offensive weapon power that they got this offseason, Caleb Williams is really set up for success. Now let's take a look at the other side of the ball. The Bears traded away their 2nd round pick in this draft to go get Montez Sweat. And as we know, Montez Sweat had a dominant year. His presence alone immediately impacted this defense on the back half of the year with, from a statistical standpoint, the defense was top 10 in all categories. With the full season ahead, Sweat's impact could even be multiplied. And I'm excited to see where it takes his team. Now, while there's still some questions on the defense, particularly the interior of the defensive line, there was a lot of hope and potential with these young secondary stars like Jaquan Brisker, Kyler Gordon, and Tyreek Stevenson. Now, the Bears decided to retain Matt Eberflus last year, with some people were like 50-50 on. But there's one thing that Eberflus knows how to do, and that is run a defense. Like I just said, that back half of the year where he decided to take over the play calling, the defense went crazy. The Bears also brought in a new defensive coordinator with Eric Washington. Now, he will not be calling the plays though, so having that new defensive coordinator to back up your head coach, but your head coach is still calling the plays where he was so successful last year, gives hope that this defense will be able to continue on the trend that they left off. And like I said, the Bears got a new offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron from Seattle. Now, he had a decent tenure in Seattle, so I'm expecting some good changes to come to this offense, and also just upgrading at the quarterback position with Caleb Williams over Justin Fields, and upgrading at the offensive coordinator position with Shane Waldron over Luke Getsy. We should see some major growth on this side of the ball. Now, the Bears last year finished 7-10, which is not that good, making them the 9th worst team in the NFL. But they had 2 or 3 games where they had the lead till the 4th quarter and they ended up blowing it. So really, this team played like a potential wild card team last year. Heading into 2024, the Bears have the potential to be one of the most improved teams in the NFL. Honestly, their floor right now is like 7 to 8 wins, but if everything falls in place, this team could easily crack double-digit wins and sneak their way into the playoffs. So if Caleb Williams can continue his preseason performance into the regular season and this defense continues on the trend that it left off last season, this Bears team could potentially be a beast. in the NFC. The combination of an innovative offense, new dynamic players, and a reinvigorated defense sets this Bears up to be true contenders in 2024. Surely this year the New York Jets don't fall apart, right? The Jets once again are entering a new season with high expectations with their boy Aaron Rodgers at the helm. But are they truly ready to contend, or is this going to be another year of meltdown after meltdown? Last year the Jets had 9 offensive linemen. Yes, 9 offensive linemen that played at least 2 positions in the season. That's the most since 2006. This lack of stability up front was a major concern for this team, and you could see it throughout the year. So they needed to upgrade here bad. Now Aaron Rodgers, he does bring hope. I mean, this is Aaron Rodgers, future Hall of Fame quarterback. But we saw what happened last year. He got injured early, and there's a lot of pressure on this man's shoulders for this team to succeed. And like I said, this offensive line was bad. I mean, it was horrible. And they did make some improvements on that side of the ball, but we still have to see this come the regular season. Now, one thing the Jets got right last year was their defense. I mean, the defense was dominant. I think it ended up being the 4th best defense from a statistical standpoint. However, like I said, the offense was dog 31st. There's only 32 teams in the NFL. They were the 2nd worst offense in the league. So they were 31st in passing and 30th in rushing. And a lot of that does contribute to Aaron Rodgers' injury and also that bad offensive line. So even if Aaron Rodgers is back there dishing the rock, if this offensive line does not hold up, the Jets are in for another disappointing season, which honestly, they're used to by now. Despite some key additions like Mike Williams from the Chargers and Hassan Reddick, who still hasn't signed yet, they still have some depth issues with that offensive line. And you're probably like, bro, we've heard it, this offensive line. But look, the NFL is one in the trenches, so if they can't get that right, they're not going anywhere. So yes, the Jets have addressed a lot of issues, but they still have a lot of holes to fill, and we'll see how that goes. Now, speaking of Hassan Reddick, we gotta talk about this a second. How did the Jets mismanage this so badly? Like, you traded for a player that you would expect to sign, but somehow you did not talk about this before you made the trade? Like, that doesn't make any sense. How do you not know what the expectation is when it comes to the salary for the guy you're trading for? Like, he's still not signed right now, and it makes no sense. And he requested a trade. So if he actually is traded out of New York, that'd be the first time, I believe, in NFL history that someone traded for a player and that player didn't even play a snap and then he was traded out. And I'm talking like a big name player, not someone who just got shipped for picks and then they just shipped him out. So crazy situation for the Jets. And though the defense has been a backbone for the Jets, you have to understand it is very hard for defenses to stay consistent year after year after year. It's not like offense in the NFL where you get your quarterback right, you can be consistently in the hunt, right? Or at least playoff bound. Defenses, there's so many variables that goes into it, and they've had 3 great years. So it's like, are they down to have another 4th year where they're going to ascend, or are we due to see some regression? And look, I get it. Tom Brady played to 45 and he won his ship right before he went out into retirement. But Aaron Rodgers is coming off an Achilles tear. Like, that is not an easy injury to come back from, and he's 40 years old. So there is a possibility that he doesn't ball out like he did when he was on the Packers. And if that doesn't happen, this season goes to shit. With these risks and challenges of being in a tough division like the AFC East, the Jets are set up to not meet expectations and more likely than not end up being pretenders this year than contenders. Jets fans should brace themselves that this season might end in disappointment instead of all the hype that we've been hearing right now. I'm sorry. Could the Houston Texans finally be in their Super Bowl window? The Texans have quietly built an amazing team due to their impressive offseason moves and the growth of their young potential stars. This is not the same Texans teams that we saw a few years ago. This is not a dog shit team. This team is set up and ready and poised to make another playoff push like they did last year. The dark days are behind them and their future is looking incredibly bright. Like I said, the Texans are back and definitely here to stay. With a young, talented roster and a coaching staff that has quickly turned things around here, Houston has given his fans a bunch of optimism and excitement, which they deserve. Let's start with the quarterback, CJ Stroud, who just came off one of the most impressive rookie quarterback seasons that we have ever seen. And in the 2nd year, Stroud has even looked more impressive, like dotting everyone up on the defensive side. I mean, he has looked amazing commanding this team. I know it's preseason, but bro, he might be bound for another great year. Not only did Houston get the quarterback position right last year, they decided to double down because they understood their window. So they went ahead and traded for Stephon Diggs from the Bills, which is crazy because now Houston has another weapon. You already had Nico Collins who went crazy last year, rookie Tank Dell who had a great rookie season, and then now you bring in Stephon Diggs. Come on, bro. Along with that, you also brought in the dominant running back Joe Mixon from the Browns. So like this offense is really set up to run this league. Oh, but let's not stop there. On the defensive side last year, they took Will Anderson in the first round, who had an impressive rookie season. And they said, wait a minute, we're not done here. Let's go trade for Danielle Hunter, who's had an amazing career in the NFL, really stacking up that defensive line, making it a powerhouse in the NFL. Along with that, they have one of the best potential up-and-coming cornerbacks in the league with Derek Stingley Jr., who had an amazing preseason and an amazing season last year. So mixing in those young rising stars like Will Anderson, Stingley, and also bringing in some vets like Danielle Hunter, this defense is set up to take another major step this year. Under the leadership of head coach DeMeco Ryans and offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick, they set up this offense to be a top 10 passing offense last year. And again, let me make it clear, this was with a rookie quarterback last year, so you're only expecting bigger and more impactful changes this year. DeMeco Ryans also set up a culture with this Texans team of being hardworking and super disciplined, and that's why we saw them come out of nowhere last year. So the Texans have returned to their roots, back when they used to be good, where they have a star quarterback and a dominant defensive line. And add that in with their key acquisitions in the offseason with players like Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs, and Danielle Hunter, they're setting themselves up to really challenge some of the AFC powerhouses like the Ravens and the Chiefs. So the Houston Texans are not just contenders. I think they are a serious threat to change up the order in the AFC this season. The combination of a dynamic offense and a stifling defense has set the stage for the Houston Texans to maybe have one of their best seasons in franchise history. Is this the year that the Miami Dolphins finally break through in the playoffs? So when the weather gets cold and the stakes get higher, will the Dolphins actually be able to get past their limit and be true contenders in the AFC? Last season, the Dolphins were a tale of two teams. On the offensive side, they were able to motion a million players and really mess with these defenses. But when it came later in the season, they kind of fell off a cliff. Now let's start with their quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa. Now Tua has developed into a top tier quarterback in the NFL, but the pressure is now on for him to stay healthy and then deliver when it matters the most. And Tua, he got paid this offseason by the Dolphins, so they are betting big on him to deliver late in the season. So how he handles the high stakes pressure will be crucial to whether this team is successful or not. And with Mike McDaniel calling the plays, I feel very confident that the offensive side will be fine. It should be, right? You got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, right? You just got some rising stars like Jalen Wright, and you still have Tua. So this offense has plenty of firepower on that side. Now, there are some key pieces that you did lose on offense, like starting center Connor Williams, who was a last year. Unfortunately, he just had a significant injury and was out a major portion of last season. But what's most important is how this defense is going to hold up. So the Dolphins decided to make a major change on the defensive side by letting go veteran Vic Fangio at defensive coordinator and bringing in the new defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver. Along with that, you brought in seasoned vet Jordan Poyer in your secondary. So the Dolphins are looking to be more versatile and dynamic on the defensive side, but is that going to be able to hold up against some of the dynamic and amazing offenses in the AFC? Really, this defense just needs to be decent. The offensive side of the ball has the potential to be a top 5 offense in the NFL. So as long as we see some improvements, I think this team is set up to really make a run. But that's a big if. A big if. And as we know in the AFC, it is stacked with talent. And I just do not see this Dolphins team being able to beat some of the powerhouse AFC teams like the Ravens and the Chiefs. And maybe this isn't fair, but to be honest, I just don't have faith in Tua at this moment. He hasn't shown that he can deliver when it matters the most. So I'm sorry, Miami fans. It looks like the Dolphins are set up to be pretenders this year in the 2024 season. Are the Bengals falling under the radar as being one of the most potential breakout contenders in the NFL? The Bengals had a horrible season last year, especially with an injury to their star quarterback Joe Burrow. So this team was overlooked in the AFC, but guess who is back? Eminem lookalike Joey B. And guess what? I think he's gonna have another great year. And despite key losses in free agency and also probably being in the toughest division in the NFL with the AFC North, the Bengals have still been able to be competitive year after year after year, barring injuries. And this starts with Joey Burrow being the linchpin of this team's success. His ability to manage this offense and make quick decisions while throwing precise beautiful passes, is why he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And yes, he does have a pretty bad injury concern, but when he is on the field, he is dynamic and must-watch television. Now, this offense kept most of its core pieces together. They still have to sign Jamar Chase to a new extension, but he is on the team. They also decided to get Jermaine Burton, who looked great in preseason and might be a steal of the draft. I mean, let's be real, as long as you have Joey Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, your offense is gonna be fine. But they brought in some key pieces this year, like defensive tackle Chris Jenkins, who is great against stopping the run. And I'm a big advocate of building in the trenches, so I think this will help this team significantly on the defensive end. Now, one thing the Bengals have gotten right over and over is drafting and developing players. That includes players like Trey Hendrickson, who, speaking of defensive line, one of the best defensive ends in the league. You have players like T. Higgins. I mean, the list goes on and on. So it's exciting to see what they do with players this year like Jermaine Burton and see how that development plays out. Also, the Bengals head coach Zach Taylor has built a culture of resiliency with this team because they have seen a lot of challenges over the past 4 years, but they always find a way to fight back and fight back. Now, you're hoping some of those challenges aren't there this year. I mean, you're gonna have some because this is the NFL, but one of their glaring challenges last year was the offensive line, and it may have been a reason why Burrow was injured for so long. I mean, protecting Burrow is paramount, so this offensive line really has to show up and show out against some of the AFC North's best defenses. I mean, for sake, good luck. You're gonna have to go against the Browns defensive line and the Steelers defensive line twice. Good luck, Bengals. So as long as Joey Burrow stays healthy, this team is set up for success. I'm talking about the run like they had a couple years ago. I could see this team going to the Super Bowl. With a roster that blends experienced veterans like Trey Burton and young emerging stars or stars already like Jamar Chase, I think the Bengals are set up to make a deep playoff run this year. So that's it. That's the 5 teams that we went over for contenders and pretenders. Our pretenders were the Dolphins and the Jets, and our contenders were the Bears, the Texans, and the Bengals. Now, I want to know what you think of these 5 teams. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Do you think my list was just dog? Let me know in the comments because I reply to everything and I love to get your guys' thoughts. And maybe there's a team I missed out that you really think could be a sneaky team this year like Houston was last year. I really appreciate you staying to watch the whole thing, and if you want to see more videos like this, then please go ahead and like and subscribe and hit that bell notification so you'll be alerted when I drop my next video.